Hello, everybody. This is Jim Ransom with another Morning Jim poetry program. And this one's entitled Poetry Magazine. Would Harriet Monroe love it today? Well, I have been an off and on subscriber to poetry since I was a college kid. That's a long time. Harriet Monroe, who died in 1936, that's the same year I was born. Incidentally, she was trying to climb Machu Picchu in Peru and had a cerebral hemorrhage and died immediately. She's buried down there. She founded poetry in 1912 and was the editor and publisher. She was largely self-educated at home, but also attended a Catholic women's conservatory someplace back east. Her major reason for doing so was that she was already writing a lot of poetry, and she was incensed at the low pay poets of her era got for their work. She felt she could improve on that, and did. But even today, her magazine and most others pay only a pittance for poems. Here's a poem by Harriet Monroe herself. It's called April, North Carolina. Would you not be in Tryon now that the spring is here, when mockingbirds are praising the fresh, the blossomy year? Look, on the leafy carpet woven of winter's browns, iris and pink azaleas flutter their gaudy gowns. The dogwood spreads white meshes, so white and light and high, to catch the drifting sunlight out of the cobalt sky. The pointed beech and maple, the pines, dark tufted, tall, patterned with many colors the mountain's purple wall. Hark! What a rushing torrent of crystal song falls sheer. Will you not be in Tryon, now that the spring is here? That was published in 1912 or so in her magazine. And you can see that this is really a 19th century verse and not a particularly good poem. And others of hers, often much longer than this, even when on modern subjects like World War I, have the same effect on the reader. They sound like a 19th century poem trying to be modern but not succeeding. Now, that didn't mean that she was only publishing poetry that was like her own. She published all the great poets of her day: Wallace Stevens, D.H., Robert Frost, you name them, they were all there. And she had a sense of how poetry was progressing and what poems represented progressive trends. And she supported that. Even when her own poetry didn't live up to the standard of the modern era. Now let's look at the latest issue of Poetry Magazine. This is what it looks like on the cover. Really quite an attractive cover. And a far cry from the covers that Harriet used to approve for her early editions of Poetry Magazine. And this included those back up into the 1950s when I was probably first subscribing to them. Much more artistic covers. Harriet preferred complicated grape leaf scrolls, and those seem distinctly dated. And you can see them on the Poetry Foundation website. However, inside it is something else. This issue, with its attractive cover, is also something else. This issue and the two monthly issues before this one have been edited by Esther Bellin. I wish I could show you her picture, but she's obviously an American Indian with a lot of the turquoise jewelry on her. It reminded me of my wife, Marcia. She loved turquoise jewelry, turquoise and silver, from the Indian Southwest. Let me read you what a short biography says about Esther Bellin. She is an urban Indian, born at an Indian Health Service hospital in Gallup, New Mexico, and raised in the greater Los Angeles area, not on the Indian reservation. She has 2 poetry collections that have been published. From the Belly of My Beauty is one of them, and Of Cartography, another, both published by the University of Arizona Press. She and 3 others edited an anthology of Navajo literature called The Diné Reader. Incidentally, Diné is the moniker of the Navajo language, I believe. Bellin is a faculty mentor in the Institute of American Indian Arts MFA program. She is a citizen of the Navajo Nation, and that's considered a separate nation, and lives on the Colorado side of the Four Corners region, which still has many Indian flavors to it. Another poet called Whitney DeVos joined in September as a reader, assisting with Poetry Magazine content for the issues that Esther Bellin edited. Okay, let's get on with the poetry. The first poem I want to read is by Rena Priest. Rena Priest is, I'm sure, a Navajo, and she's written a couple of things in this book, in this edition. One is called Myth of the Vanishing Indian, but the one I want to read you is Welcome to Indian Country. Where is Indian country? It's everywhere we stand. It's anywhere we stand. It's where the earth loves the feel of our feet. Welcome to Indian country. What does that mean? It means this is where we lift our voice in song and make a joyful drumbeat so our hearts can sing along. Welcome to Indian country. This beloved country here, where we honor our ancestors by growing stronger every year, we make and continue to make laughter the answer that wipes away our tears. Welcome to Indian country. What does the future hold? In uncertain times like these, we reach for words like hope and things we can be sure of. Sunrises, beauty, and love. Welcome to Indian country. It is everywhere we dance and where the feast is truly grand. Welcome to Indian country. Now give us back our land. Oh, tell you what, there is that movement out there. And it's not a bad poem, the one I just read you. Would Harriet Monroe have published it? Probably yes. She was never unwilling to move poetry forward, even when it was not her style. But here's one I'd like to show you on a folded page. Let's see it here. This is by Amber McCrary, if I can get it up in my clumsy fingers. Here we go. This is a poem, believe it or not. There we go. This is a poem, believe it or not. I think it's essentially unreadable. And it does seem to have a theme which is sort of two overlapping teepees. But I tried to read it and I really can't. It starts out saying, I am a blue corn woman, my kernels round, a momentous like sudzil, a blue nada dancing freely, cerebral cerulean geek of flint, and so on. I can't read stuff like that. And then a page or so further on, there's another poem about blue corn, and it looks like this. So let me ask the question, would Harriet Monroe have published this material? I doubt it. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. Because she would have said, if I am guessing correctly about Harriet, she would have said, that's not really poetry. That's some kind of visual art form, but not what we should be calling poetry. And so I'm going to go with Harriet on this. It's not poetry. I think it might be a new form of art in multimedia, and it is unclear whether we should read it or just look at it. I'm choosing to look at it and not try to read it. Now we'll turn half a world away and read a poem translated from the Polish. The poet's name is Krystyna Dabrowska, and the translator is Karen Kovacic, who I presume is an American poet, but I didn't check much on her. Here's the poem written in Polish. It's called Cosmos. And then on the facing page, it's translated into English. And that part I will read you. Until recently, the universe was expanding with new suns, nebulas, constellations, vibrating waves, the breath of galaxies. Now it's contracting to satellite images depicting Earth. Not even the whole planet, just one country. Not even each region, just one city. A single street, gray pavement. On it are strewn dark objects of similar size as human bodies, writes the New York Times. Not buried for weeks. Their grave, the satellite's synthetic eye, and the black holes of our pupils, surrounded by life. Okay, we have to ask the same question that we asked before. And that is, would Harriet have published that poem? I think the answer is she would have been glad to publish it, as she published and wrote blood-drenched poems about the Great War, or as we call it, World War I. I think the poem is a good poem because it gives us a fresh perspective on our world. I personally have not seen a poem written from the perspective of a satellite picture of the Ukrainian battlefield. And I don't think there's any doubt about what we're looking at in that picture. So I think that Poetry Magazine has mostly stayed within the tradition of its founder, Harriet Monroe, but has strayed a bit by including some bits picked by guest editors, which are probably not going anyplace in the American poetry big story, although they might be considered multimedia pieces. Wow, look at the time. That's it for today. We had good poems and also food for thought. And we can see that those who have believed themselves to have been wronged by America may still feel that way. On the other hand, as we see from the daily news, this is still the only country in the world that thousands of people want to break into instead of escape from. Very amazing, isn't it? Very amazing in itself. Okay, that's it for our program entitled Poetry Magazine. Would Harriet Monroe love it today? I think the answer is yes, with some reservations. Bye now.